covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Welcome to this week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Kasey Rigner.
And I'm Joe Spear. Today we have a couple good stories for you today, one being on an interactive map about climate change and another being on increased mercury levels in fish.
We also have a feature about the long-term effects of the El Nino by our very own Penn State Meteorology student, Michael Mann. But first, here's Update in the Air.
Scientists may have cracked the code to artificial photosynthesis. A new artificial leaf design was proposed by a team from the University of Illinois at Chicago that would allow these leaves to work outside of a lab. They measure 5.5 feet long and are around half a foot wide. Previous designs would require a tank of pressurized carbon dioxide for the leaves to photosynthesize. For artificial leaves to work outside of a lab, they would need to be able to use carbon dioxide from the air or other gases. The new design would place the leaves in a water-filled capsule, and outside the water would evaporate, and as it exits the capsule, carbon dioxide would be pulled inside. The photosynthetic unit in the leaves would convert the carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide that can be used for fuel, and oxygen that can be collected or released. Artificial leaves are 10 times more efficient at this conversion than ones found in nature. The team's research found that 360 of the leaves could produce a half-ton of carbon monoxide for fuel. They also found the same number of leaves in a 500 meters square area could reduce the levels of carbon dioxide in the surrounding 100 meters by 10% in one day. Researchers plan to use the artificial leaves to significantly reduce the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Our department's very own Michael Mann, a professor of atmospheric science, has been awarded the 2019 Tyler Prize for Environmental Achievement. Founded in 1973, the Tyler Prize, also referred to as the Nobel Prize for the Environment, remains the premier international award for environmental science. It consists of a $200,000 cash prize and a gold medallion. He shares his honor with fellow climate scientist Warren Washington, also a Penn State alumnus. Mann stated, "One of the things that makes this award special for me is sharing it with a personal hero of mine, Warren Washington, an illustrious graduate of our program here at Penn State, who has contributed fundamentally to the field of climate modeling." Mann is honored with this award not only for his research in reconstructing the Earth's past climate and placing modern climate change in a long-term context, but also for his communication and outreach efforts. Mann and Washington will officially be presented with the Tyler Prize on May 3rd during the ceremony at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in San Francisco. From all of us here at Up in the Air, we want to congratulate Dr. Mann on his outstanding achievement.
Your childhood home might not feel the same according to a new climate studies map. Scientists at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science compared today's climate with the expected climate in 2080 across hundreds of cities in the United States and Canada. The expected climate in 60 years is based on current emission policy and regulations. Using measurements such as temperature and precipitation and projected emissions, mappers were able to find current climates that would match the locations of the future climate in 2080. According to the interactive map, the average North American climate in urban areas will feel similar to 500 miles south. For cities in the eastern United States like Boston and Philadelphia, it will feel like the South and Southwest. The western and central parts of the country will also feel like the South, but more towards the Southeast. Most of the country will experience warmer seasons, but the Northeast will have moister seasons as well. New York City will feel like northern Arkansas, and Washington, D.C. will feel like northern Mississippi. Researchers explained that this map was made to give people a better understanding of how they will be impacted by climate change and the scale of what we can see in a single generation.
The filling and draining of meltwater lakes has been found to cause a floating Antarctic ice shelf to flex, potentially threatening its stability. A team of British and American researchers, co-led by the University of Cambridge, has measured how much the McMurdo ice shelf in Antarctica flexes in response to filling and draining of meltwater lakes on its surface. The results demonstrate a link between surface melting and the weakening of Antarctic ice shelves. This supports the idea that recent ice shelves breakup around the Antarctic Peninsula may have been triggered, or at least in part, by large amounts of surface meltwater produced due to atmospheric warming. As the climate continues to warm, more and more ice shelves may become susceptible to flex, fracture, and break up over the coming century. What is not fully known is the extent to which surface water might destabilize an ice shelf, especially in warmer summers where more meltwater is produced. If the slope of the ice shelf is steep enough, the water may flow off the ice shelf to the ocean in large surface rivers, mitigating against any potential stability.
Fish might contain more mercury in them as climate change alters rainfall rates and land use. While it is true that the levels of atmospheric mercury have decreased in the United States, previous amounts of mercury have been absorbed into the soil. The northeast of the United States was of particular interest because of the high levels of mercury in the land and the higher rainfall rates. A team from Dartmouth College examined a variety of species in the marine food chain across Maine, Connecticut, and Maryland. They found that the estuaries and coastal wetlands that we fish from might be exposed to more mercury in the food chain as increased rainfall helps to draw stored mercury into surrounding streams and rivers. Increased rainfall also brings more organic carbon to the area that binds with the mercury. The study also found that there is an increased level of methylmercury, the toxic form of mercury. As wetlands are converted to other land use, the environment loses an important buffer from methylmercury. The organic carbon from wetlands can prevent methylmercury from contaminating the food chain, but climate change adds more methylmercury and dissolved organic carbon that can interfere with that process. Although the study is sure of the increased methylmercury levels, researchers still hope to understand the complex interactions between climate change and mercury.
Researchers at NYU Abu Dhabi, along with other global scientists, have recognized a new mechanism by which warm dust travels from the Sahara to the Arctic Circle, which has been proven to affect rising temperatures and ice melt in Greenland. These findings highlight the role that the polar jet and associated atmospheric circulation plays in the transport of mineral dust from the Sahara to the Arctic across the eastern side of the North Atlantic Ocean. A strolling polar jet was discovered as responsible for both the emission and transport of the dust from northwest Africa to the Arctic. The study has found that atmospheric circulation of this nature enables the transport of dust, where approximately half of the warming is now attributed to increased moisture and heat fluxes to the region. The warm, moist air accompanying the dust causes a rise in surface temperatures of 10 degrees Celsius for more than 3 consecutive days upon reaching southeastern Greenland. Succeeding temperature observations detected increased melting within the ice across this same region. The polar jet stream has been identified as the main driving force for such events, leading to the transport of large amounts of dust to high latitudes. The newly discovered poleward path is considered the most substantial in terms of dust import into the Arctic.
Welcome back to the show. We now go to a feature from Michael Mann about the effects of El Niño.
Harvey, and Michael are just a few of the most recent tropical cyclones to affect the United States. These hurricanes, which were extremely disastrous, were followed by a multitude of other tropical systems that wreaked havoc on infrastructure, coastal environments, and the economy. Researchers say that the severity of these storms are directly correlated to El Niño, and that we can expect an increase of the severity of such storms as our climate starts shifting towards warmer temperatures. The El Niño Southern Oscillation, also known as ENSO, can be broken up into two segments, El Niño and La Niña. The term El Niño is typically referred to as a large-scale ocean-atmosphere climate interaction that is linked to the warming of sea surface temperatures in the Pacific, yet its effects can be seen well around the world. La Niña, on the other hand, is quite the opposite, affecting the Atlantic regions. This means El Niño events tend to increase cyclonic activity in the Pacific, while La Niña is correlated to hurricanes in the Atlantic. The activity in the Atlantic is affected by ENSO through changes in atmospheric circulation, primarily through the vertical wind shear profile. This increased vertical shear in El Niño is largely due to an increase in westerly winds in the upper troposphere. Overall, the larger vertical shear associated with an El Niño event often contributes to decreased hurricanes in the Atlantic, while smaller vertical shear during a La Niña is linked to an increased number. Scientists have known about the strong interaction El Niño and La Niña have on tropical cyclone formation for quite some time, yet the recent volume of severe hurricanes in such a short frequency are concerning scientists even more. What seems to be so unusual is the fact that new studies are showing an increase in Atlantic hurricanes may be due to El Niño strengthening in the Pacific as waters begin to warm farther and farther to the west. This correlation, as many scientists are saying, may be directly related to an increase in overall global temperatures, and with an increase in these temperatures come changes in El Niño, tropical cyclones, and a variety of other atmospheric phenomena. We can see the effects of climate change in the form of severe storms, and its correlation to El Niño are very apparent. Understanding the long-term patterns of El Niño and the impacts it has on the livelihoods of millions of people is a vital part in making sure that those who are potentially in harm's way plan for such an uncertain future. With Up in the Air, I'm student meteorologist Michael Mann.
Welcome back to the show. Joe, we had snow in the afternoon on Wednesday, changing over to that gross wintry mix. I'm tired of the snow. I only like snow during Christmas time because I like it to be a white Christmas, so I'm trying to say goodbye to the snow. That's just me.
Yeah, and you guys heard my opinion on snow in last week's episode, but coming into the end of the week, we might be seeing some above normal temperatures, and we'll head over to Ryan at the Climate Wall to see what he has to say about that.
Well, Joe, we are going to be warm before we get cold, but that cold trend is coming, and it's coming fast. But first off, these temperatures for today, Thursday, 39 degrees for a high and 22 for a low. But just last year, we had a high of 72, and 3 years before that, -7 for a low. These are record-breaking numbers, and these are just a few years apart from each other as well. Now, how about temperatures across the country? Well, we're seeing, like I said, a cold trend for much of the country, especially here in the Dakotas. They're smack dab in the middle of the probability for below normal temperatures. But here in Florida, perfect vacation spot for next week. Spring break is coming around the corner, so you might want to flock on down to Florida because they're going to be above normal. But here in State College, we're still going to be below normal. That line split right there between two different sets of probabilities, still going to be fairly below in terms of temperatures next week. Now, in terms of precipitation, fairly dry across the board as well. Here in the West Coast, they're experiencing that drought. They're not going to get any alleviation from it just yet because they're still going to be below normal in terms of precipitation. But here in the Dakotas and even Montana and parts of Wyoming, they'll be seeing above average. That's the only above average they'll be seeing around here in this whole entire part of the country. But down here in Florida, you have to deal with above normal temperatures. You're going to have to deal with above normal precipitation too. So take the good with the bad if you're heading down there for spring break. But here in State College, this is the pattern we've been seeing throughout the rest of the year. Above average precipitation here for Pennsylvania. But how about that drought monitor I said earlier? Well, Four Corners region is still experiencing a massive amount of drought, and they've been seeing that throughout the entire year. But even here in Oregon now, we're still seeing a lot of drought as well. And that is not going to be alleviated anytime soon with the below average precipitation. But here in Florida, from Miami to Daytona Beach, still going to be a little bit of a drought. We've been seeing that over the past few episodes as well, but that above average precipitation should definitely help that area. And here in State College, well, we've been seeing a pattern of above average precipitation throughout the entire year, so we don't have any drought to worry about. But how about snow? Well, Canada still has that monopoly, but it's spreading on down. Even here in the Sierra Nevada, we had that atmospheric river push in a whole lot of moisture. The Sierra Nevada mountains are densely covered in snow, and this is the case throughout the entire northern half of the country. Just snow, snow, and more snow that we've been seeing. And even here in State College, but that's going to get washed away during the weekend. It's going to get a little bit warmer, a little bit rainier, and we'll get into that right now. 40 degrees for Saturday and 47 for Sunday, and we'll be seeing a little bit of that warmth. So if you're going out on Sunday, perfect time to go out there on that run before the rain. It's going to get a little slick, Joe and Kasey.
Well, I love to see that, the above average temperatures. It'll definitely be a great weekend to go out, as Ryan said, so I'm looking forward to that myself. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Make sure you catch us next weekend up in the air.